Yo, yo, what's good, people? Back like I ain't never left. Yo, GOAT, you know what I'm saying? Or new GOAT, Damelocks, feel me? All that good shit. Watching the boys trailer. What a opening scene. My son Emergency, awesome. You know, he gonna lock us in. Tell us what we need to hear. And that's just it. Run it up, you feel me? Lock in.
Listen, right, I've got a lot to say. All time to say it. I've got a lorry out back. I can get you out of here.
What are you talking about?
I know you're angry with me, and you've got every right to be. But you know how dangerous Homelander is.
He's my dad.
Right, he murdered some poor sod right in front of your eyes.
That guy was a pedophile.
Right, it ain't true. He's lying to you. Let me take you to Grace, all right? And then you don't got to see me no more.
That's the general
Please,
footage.
I'm begging you. It's what your mum would want.
No means no, William. This isn't the Neverland Ranch. Don't worry. Nothing bad's gonna happen, right? Oh. Seems it already has.
You got no powers.
Look at that big black mass curdling around your brain.
Oh, he can see it. Oh, I forgot. You get that see him die.
What do you got, 6 months? Less? It's too bad. We're not gonna have that last dance together. I'll miss us.
I'll miss us. Hear this guy.
Bloody hell. You wait to your own voice, don't you?
That's a spirit, champ. Son.
Man, William growing up big as shit.
Come on.
Or is that just
I do not want to miss
regular
Smash
time?
Mouth.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Amazon dropped The Boys Season 4 Episode 1 opening scene. There's a bunch of other promos they've released in the last week, too, because the season is getting started this week.
about to
I'll be doing
drop,
videos
yeah.
for all the episodes.
It's
If you're
up.
brand new to the channel,
Facts.
be
I'ma
sure
have
to
to
subscribe to
tap in
get them.
on John.
There's so much going on during this. Like, obviously, it's meant to be funny in a really
better lock
dark kind
in.
of way, but
Gotta
they're
be a
baking a lot of
good
Easter eggs
season.
into this, too, in the future of the show, just in general, because I know there's a ton of questions about what's going to happen to Butcher ultimately, because as
He's
Homelander
dead.
says during this, what, you only have
He's
about
dead.
6 months to live? That last
no
dance
chance
that he
now.
says that they're not going to get, like, oh, it's a shame we're not going to have
They
that
gonna shoot
last
out,
dance,
bro.
is a
They gonna
reference
have
to
to.
previous seasons before he took the temporary Compound V, when he basically called Homelander out and said, the way we're going to end this is we are going to kill each other.
It's gonna be
Because
one of
aside
us,
from
bro.
Ryan now, like, that's a bit of a wrench in his plans. Butcher only cared about killing Homelander. He didn't care if he lived or died. He didn't really care that much about any of the other characters, too. Like,
At
even the
all.
members of the boys that were working with him that called him
On
a
low.
friend. Ultimately, they
low,
wanted to
though.
show you
On
the
low.
first couple of seasons that he was willing to throw them under the
Murder
bus
them
if it
all.
meant a chance at killing Homelander. Like, he didn't care. He just wanted him dead.
Want to charge mess-free? Just snap it. Want to charge all at once?
Now, there have been a couple moments since then, though. Like, you have characters like Huey, the other characters in The Boys, that are slowly trying to win him back from darkness. Like, he's meant to be just as bad as Homelander in a completely different direction, but they try to sort of soften that image. Like, he's starting to slowly become a better person. Whereas I think
mean,
the
when
other
you
side
only
of
got a
that
couple
coin
months
is that
left to
Homelander
live,
is
right?
only getting more crazy and worse and worse and worse. Ryan is ultimately like the redeeming factor. Like, he's slowly redeeming Butcher because Butcher realized how he wronged him in previous seasons. Like, all right, I realized how I messed up. You don't have to ever see me again, but we're just going to grab you. We're going to take you to Grace, get you away from Homelander, and it'll be great. That's what your mom would want. And as you can see from the scene, Ryan has been fed all these lies from Homelander, who's trying to be a good dad. Like, ultimately, Homelander does want to be Ryan's father. He thinks of him as a son. All he really cares about is having a family, people loving him. But there's this other twisted side of him. Like, you could think of him as this other persona that he talks to in the mirror, who
Oh, the guy in
only
the
wants
mirror.
more power, hates other people, basically acting like evil Superman. And even though it seems like having Ryan with him, like actually getting a chance
guess.
to be a
Evil
father to
Superman,
Ryan,
facts.
might soften him up a little bit, it doesn't seem like it's actually working on him. The way they actually described Ryan's relationship with Homelander, aside from all the lies that he's being fed here, like, oh, my father killed that guy, but he was a pedophile. No, he was not. Ryan, your father's lying to you. Is it said that Homelander's kind of dad vibe is over-controlling and wanting Ryan to become just like him, which is very classic bad dad. trying to force
Facts.
your son to become exactly like you.
Version
You
of
don't really get a total
Sure.
sense of this across the trailers because it just seems like Homelander is just completely three sheets to the wind crazy and just loves Ryan no matter what. Like, oh, you killed a guy. Great. Would you like a milkshake? But it sounds like he just becomes this very over-controlling, over-present, hovering kind of father who won't leave Ryan alone. And I think part of the idea, even though this is meant to be one of the opening scenes, is that eventually Ryan starts to feel that, become trapped, and starts to think that Butcher might actually be telling him the truth. Like, maybe
gonna
I
be his
actually
savior
should
for
go
real.
somewhere else. Like, maybe you should actually back off a little bit, Homelander. Pretty easy to see Homelander not going to react well to that. So essentially, season 4 and beyond is going to be the battle for Ryan's soul. Like, Ryan will become a much bigger focal point in the show as he becomes older and slowly comes into his powers more and more. The showrunner Eric Kripke also said that he does have an end in mind for the show, but there was this big talk the past couple of weeks about how originally he said he was going to end the show after 5 seasons, like, oh, I know what it's going to be, but this was back when season 1 aired, I think. Since then, he's walked that back and said the show will probably go beyond 5 seasons, but he does have a new ending for the show in mind, which will be very different from the comic book ending. Most
Beyond
people
5
who have read
seasons,
the Boys
no
comic
Butch?
book are thinking about a couple really big twists, especially with Black Noir and the White House, what's going on with Homelander and Butcher.
They're not
The
doing
show
that no
might
more.
do some Easter eggs for that, but that's
They
not going to be
changed
the
mad
actual
stuff,
end of
don't
the
they?
show.
They
In
can't
fact,
do
at the
that.
pace we're going, if they're going to do some Easter eggs for those moments in the comic book, the ending of the comic book, we might even blow past that during season 5 as we go to season 6 and season 7. So ultimately, I think my original idea for the end of the show after Ryan was introduced as a character is probably going to be how they end the show. In early theory, it'll
when
be
they
all about
Superman
Superboy
versus
versus
Superboy.
Superman. Like, Ryan will be the only
Right.
person who ultimately is capable of stopping Homelander, not only because he has the same level of powers, or he will have the same level of powers, so his strength will be able to match Homelander's, but also they've shown in previous seasons that Homelander's real weakness isn't so much like another person trying to fight him
Damn,
literally,
facts.
it's more of psychological problems. Like, milk in women, just in general, are kind of his kryptonite. Also now, metaphorically, Ryan is kind of his kryptonite. Like, he will do anything for Ryan
Keep his
because he
son
wants
approval.
Ryan so badly. So early theory, ultimately, I think that Ryan will be able to make him realize how crazy he's become, and then there'll be some kind of actual physical battle between the two of them. But I think we're a couple seasons away from that actually happening. Like, he's just too young right now.
Yeah, Ryan
There's
gotta
that whole
get bigger.
subplot with the Compound V virus. We'll see what ends up happening with that, because I do not think that they're going to use it ultimately to kill all superheroes all over the world, because that is the idea. It'll kill any superhero. There's a couple moments in the trailer where the other members of the Boys try to take Butcher to task for this. Like, wait a minute, do you want to kill every single person with Compound V powers? There are a lot of superheroes out there that don't have real superpowers, like they have bad superpowers, or the Compound V just makes them look different, and they're not hurting anybody, and some of them are actually pretty good people. Do you want to kill them too? In Butcher, the
Butcher
idea
don't
is that
care.
he's so willing to kill Homelander, or the chance to kill Homelander,
care.
that he wants to try and use it no matter what. And theoretically, using that would also kill Ryan. I think that's ultimately what'll get him to back off, is the thought that using it would kill Ryan as well. Odds are pretty good, though. It would not be strong
even
enough to actually
yeah,
kill
I
Homelander.
feel
Like,
it.
that's really what they want to make him seem like. He's completely invincible,
smoked
which is
them
why I
all.
think ultimately, like I said, Ryan will be the only thing that can stop him, both metaphorically and physically. The other big thing people asking about, if Butcher is supposed to die in the next 6 months, obviously the show is going to go way past that. How are they going to heal Butcher? Are they going to kill him off? The easy way
gonna
to
kill
fix
him,
that
bro.
would be if he
Right?
could take real, like the blue Compound V, full Compound V. That would technically heal him. But here's the thing with that. In the original comic, the
him
vast
powers.
majority of the adult population around the world cannot successfully handle Compound V. Like, if you gave it to an adult in the comic book, odds are pretty good that they would just explode into a bag of flesh.
Facts.
Look at that big meat bag go. Now, in the comic, Huey does take regular Compound V, and he does get power, so like he survives Compound V, so it's possible for adults to do it.
All them
But
niggas
on the
got
show, they
powers
played it a little
in
more
the
fast and
comics,
loose with
boy.
that concept, especially with the concept of the temporary
fake all
Compound V.
move like
That's
they
not
got
something
powers.
from the comic. There's also always the possibility that there's a Compound V superhero out there with the ability to heal people, like healing powers, like the comics, who could just heal the damage to his body done by the temporary Compound V. That almost feels like too easy of a workaround,
Yeah.
so I'm sure the show will
fuck
have some
so.
more complicated explainer
mad
for
easy.
how Butcher survives past season 4. But essentially, in this moment here,
They
he
gonna
knows
want him
he's
to
going to
survive,
die.
though?
That's why
I
he
thought he
tells
was
Ryan,
gonna
look,
smoke
look,
him.
I got a bunch of stuff to say and very little time to
Let my
actually
son
say it.
Huey be the
Love all the
main.
British slang that he works into his
Facts.
conversation here, too. Like, Ryan's probably like, what's a lorry? What's going on here? But if you've been looking forward to Ryan using his powers in like crazy ways that go off the rails that he doesn't know how to handle, it seems like we're going to get a lot of that during season 4. We've seen him use his powers a couple times in previous seasons, but mostly in reactive kind of ways. Like, he isn't trying to use his powers. There's that
Yeah,
big
that
running
happened
storyline with
accidentally.
Victoria Newman, Vought trying to gain control of the White House, Victoria Newman
my
formally
son,
working
Edgar?
for Stan Edgar before she threw him under the bus, seemingly now in cahoots with Homelander, so technically she is trying to advance Vought's agenda because it's kind of Homelander's agenda now. It
It's all
seems like
part of
they
the
win the White
plan,
House,
for
she
real.
becomes the vice president, fulfilling her comic book persona. In the comic, she's based on Vic the
Vic the
Veep, who was a
Veep.
former president of Vought, and then becomes the vice president of the United States eventually. Supposedly during season 4, they're supposed to create a position inside the government for a superhero to advocate for superhero rights. I think that's just a ploy from her to help Homelander get himself into the White House and have a say in the government. But they also
This might
teased this
really turn
concept
out
in
a
the
little
first
bit
teaser
like the
trailer,
comics,
the
man.
idea that
Hello.
Homelander wanted to essentially become God Emperor of the world and just eventually take over the entire planet. And getting into the White House was just like a temporary measure on the way to that. This is where we get into that new plan that seems like it's developed by Sister Sage. She's this new character here. Within the history of the universe, she was a member of Teenage Kicks before she was upgraded to the Seven. They're like the evil version of the Teen Titans that are sponsored by Vought. Remember, all superhero teams are meant to be
Yeah, they
parodies of
suck.
Marvel and DC superhero teams, but they're technically Vought superhero teams because all the kids that got powers were given Compound V as children by Vought. So essentially, her story is that when she was a child, her
What's that
parents
power?
gave her to Vought for the Compound V treatment for free, basically using all these little kids for testing. As a result, the powers that she got were essentially becoming the smartest person in the world. She got mental-based powers, essentially.
Oh.
Our internet bill went up?
Looks like you need Verizon Home Internet. No surprise price hikes or hidden fees, because nobody likes surprises.
Who are you?
I live here.
Oh, please.
Switch to
But because we're talking about the boys, and there's usually like an ironic twist to the powers that people get within this universe because it's this dark parody, the showrunner said that even though she becomes the smartest person on the planet because she's an African American from this underprivileged community in this really bad part of town, nobody listens to anything she says or cares about her. So essentially, she could tell you what the secret of life is, but nobody would care to listen
Nobody
to her.
would listen.
Throughout her life, that's
Damn.
made her super bitter, but it sounds like eventually Homelander does listen to her, so he starts to listen to her plan like, oh, you want to take over the world? All you have to do is just get everybody to fight a civil war with each other, then you swoop in and save everyone, and they'll hold you up as this savior. So the idea you see during the trailers is that Homelander essentially
her
pushes
idea.
this civil war in the United States between the Starlight faction and his own faction. Starting with the United States,
They got
slowly
factions.
trying to get it to
Crazy.
burn itself to the ground so that he can swoop in and be the savior figure and essentially take over the government, then eventually do the same thing with the rest of the world. They talked a little bit about the new Firecracker character. I don't know exactly what her superpower is. They haven't revealed like what her special power is,
She got
but she does
bullets
have
on
that
her.
conservative talk show. The way the actor
Gotta
talked
be
about the
guns
character,
or
she
something,
actually
right?
comes into this
so tired
really
of seeing
believing
that,
in
though.
underprivileged communities, people that are marginalized. She has this own
she like
trauma that she's
fireworks.
dealing with, but she's willing to completely throw that aside for the sake of power, getting more power because Vought gives her
Literally
this
what I
talk
said,
show.
guns.
They put her on the
Literally
Seven,
what I
so she
thought.
gains all this status in the
Nobody better
social
see that.
capital like anybody who gets to be a member of the Seven. So then when she goes on the talk show, when she goes on stage with Homelander, she's willing to say anything that Vought wants her to say. Like no matter how crazy it sounds, she'll say whatever they want her to say. So part of the dark parody of the character is that she's completely willing to throw her beliefs aside if it means getting more power. It's kind of what Victoria Newman has been doing the past couple of seasons. She was willing to do anything to get out of Red River Institute and just has slowly been on that path on the way to the White House. Why does she want more power? Well, essentially now it's just so that she can get more power. Whereas before, she probably had this grand idea like, oh, I'm going to fix the system, when in reality, she's not doing that at all. Like, she's only making things worse. A lot of people also asking about Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character. He's playing Monkey from the comics, who's actually pretty notable, like pretty hilarious
boy
character in a
Negan.
dark kind of way. Obviously, because we're talking about the boys. If there's any other Easter eggs or references that you spotted in the new footage that it didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. And real big reminder, first 3 episodes are going to drop on the first day this week. I'll just do like a single big video for
day?
all 3
Okay,
episodes.
bet.
Be sure to enable alerts for my
Thank
channel
you.
so you
Fake
don't miss
clocked
that.
me in, 'cause
Other
I
big
didn't- I know
reminder,
it was
we
coming
also
soon,
have
but I didn't
Acolyte
remember
episodes
when.
and House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 1. So
I did
June and
watch
July are going
only
to
the
be
first episode.
stacked with
Facts. We got mad stuff coming up, y'all. I definitely watched like the first of the Star Wars Acolyte episode. I didn't even watch 2 or 3. They definitely dropped those. I gotta tap in. Y'all let me know if y'all watching that. It's fake clean. Well, from what I've seen so far. You already know this about to be good. Every season of this has been good. Like, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. But your goat is gone. You feel me? Y'all heard. Stay safe out here. Fact.